Thank you everyone for joining tonight's RALI Illinois webinar. We are now live.
Hello, good evening. I'm Mark O'Brien with the RX Abuse Leadership Initiative, or RALI. So honored to host tonight's webinar and grateful to have each and every one of you here today. So thank you for joining us. I hope everyone is staying safe and healthy as we all cope with the many challenges of the pandemic. Given the anxiety, stress, and isolation so many of us are facing during this time, it's no surprise that the coronavirus has triggered a significant increase in mental health problems for people of all ages. The incidence of depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, and suicide are all up, as is substance misuse and addiction. Along with all the other challenges associated with COVID, the opioid epidemic has persisted. Today, we're coming together virtually to listen and learn about the many ways we can work together to help fight substance misuse and keep our friends, families, loved ones, and communities safe and secure during this time of isolation and uncertainty. We're pleased to be joined today by experts in medicine and healthcare policy, mental health, and law enforcement to talk about what each of us can do to support each other and our communities as we continue to make progress in the fight against addiction and the opioid crisis, even as we do it from a distance. The RX Abuse Leadership Initiative of Illinois, RALI Illinois, has been working to turn the tide on the opioid crisis for many years. RALI convenes national, state, and community leaders, like those we have with us here today, to exchange best practices and provide resources that help prevent misuse of prescription medications. We focus on educating the public about preventing opioid misuse, spotting warning signs, and talking to a loved one if you suspect there might be a problem with substance use. RALI also works hard to connect committed partner organizations who provide resources and support. Now, there are many leaders and organizations on the local, state, and national level who are making important progress against the opioid crisis. And today we have the opportunity to hear from several of them. I'm really excited about this panel we've pulled together. I think this is going to be a great session. I'd like to highlight our guests that we have with us for the evening who've taken time out of their busy schedules to join us. We have Representative Deanne Mazzochi of the Illinois House of Representatives. We have Jim Schreiner with Pledge for Life, Mccosey and Megan Dugan with Trinity Family Counseling Center. And I have to say, I've been working for a couple of hours to make sure that I said Mazzochi and Mccosey correctly. And I got to tell you, the stress that just came off of me when I got them both, I think I got them both, is pretty serious. We have Sheriff James Mendrick with the Illinois Sheriff's Association and Joe Abdallah with the Code 3 Association. Now, just a couple quick housekeeping items before I close my mouth and let us get to the meat of this conversation. If you have a question you'd like to ask during the Q&A portion of the webinar that we'll have towards the end of the webinar, feel free to add those at any time to the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen down there. I think we're all getting pretty good with Zoom at this point, so you can probably find it down there towards the bottom of the screen. And we'll try to get to as many of them as time will allow us to at the end. We have a few resources that we'd like to share with you today and links to our presenters' website. So you'll be able to find those links in the chat box, also located at the bottom of your screen during the webinar. And finally, we're recording today's webinar for future educational purposes. So you'll be able to find it on the RALI USA website. If you want to revisit it or share it, we'd love for you to do that. And with that, I am honored to hand the virtual microphone over to Representative Mazzochi.
Thank you so much, Mark. Hello, everyone. This is State Representative Deanne Mazzochi, and I would like to thank all of my fellow Illinois residents who are joining us today. We've all had to make drastic changes over the past year to protect our friends, our family, our neighbors from COVID-19. And I thank everyone who has made those sacrifices. I hope that wherever you're watching from, that you and your loved ones are staying safe and healthy. The opioid epidemic, however, has persisted in communities across the country amidst COVID-19. Social isolation, and other consequences of the pandemic have been particularly challenging for those who are struggling with substance abuse. There are also people who have been struggling with substance, not just abuse, but misuse. And there are also those who are in recovery. However, the RX Abuse Leadership Initiative, or RALI, and its partners who are our hosts tonight, they've continued to bring local organizations together so that we can educate our communities about the importance of prevention. Today, I'm joined by Pledge for Life, Trinity Health Services, Code 3, and the Illinois Sheriff's Association, all of whom are working hard to continue fighting the opioid crisis while we're here at home. As we continue to stay diligent in the fight against COVID-19, there are important steps that we can all take to help prevent addiction, learning what to look for in the home, as well as being aware of those who may be struggling with increased anxiety or substance misuse all around us. We really need to be aware of the needs of our loved ones who are struggling, and also to know where we can go for help. That is why we have our experts here today. Back to you, Mark.
I've been talking to myself on mute there. Thank you so much, Representative Mazzochi, for your leadership and all the work that you do on behalf of Illinois residents, and of course for being here with us tonight. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Jim Schreiner from Pledge for Life. Jim is the Drug-Free Communities Grant Project Coordinator for the Pledge for Life Partnership Coalition located in Kankakee, Illinois. He is a national board certified teacher who retired in 2019 from Bradley Bourbonnais Community High School, where he taught science for 25 years. Prior to that, Jim taught at Crete Moni High School for 9 years. Jim has been very active in Kankakee County and was recognized as an outstanding volunteer of Kankakee County by the Community Foundation of Kankakee River Valley, the Pledge for Life Partnership, and the United Way of Kankakee and Iroquois counties. Jim began working for the Pledge for Life Partnership in July of 2020. He is also a member of the Opioid Task Force in Kankakee County. His efforts creating a virtual environment for the Life Education Center, educators, and creating PSAs on substance misuse have been helpful in continuing the work of PFL during COVID-19. Thank you for joining us today, Jim, and I will turn it over to you.
Okay, thanks, Mark. I forgot that I did that bio. That's like half of my speech done already. So I'll go ahead and give it a go here. Appreciate the introduction. My name's Jim Schreiner. I work out of the Iroquois Kankakee Regional Office of Education. I'm the Drug-Free Communities Grant Project Coordinator for the Pledge for Life Partnership out of Kankakee, Illinois. And I get all that on my business card. I fit it all on there. So I'll give you a little bit of background. The Drug-Free Communities Grant funding comes from the White House and its Office of National Drug Control Policy. The DFC grant is now being managed by the CDC, and our coalition was recently awarded that grant, which will run now for the next 5 years. So a little bit of background about the Pledge for Life. Our partnership was established back in '89, and we still continue to serve both Kankakee and Iroquois County. Our motto, piecing together a safer and healthier community. And what that really means is that we have a board of directors made up of representatives from 12 different sectors. Our board consists of people from area businesses, schools, religious organizations, healthcare, youth, parents, law enforcement groups. We work together or piece together ways to make our community healthier. Now, our major success in our fight against substance misuse comes from our Life Education Center programming and the efforts of our Life Education Center educators. In fact, our coalition success story was recently featured in the Community Anti-Drug Coalitions of America, Coalitions in Action. We have these specially designed mobile units. I imagine they're very similar to the RALI Cares trailers that our educators actually physically take to area schools. Beginning in kindergarten through middle school, our educators travel to area schools with these modified mobile units. They're pretty slick. They got video screens. We have transparent anatomical mannequins that pop out of the walls. We definitely have a unique way of delivering our message about substance misuse prevention. We reach about 10,000 school-age kids on a yearly basis. Our curriculum is about teaching kids really resiliency skills and learning how to make wise lifestyle choices. That's basically what we do. So Mark said I was a national board certified teacher. I retired from teaching in 2019. So I was retired, but then I was offered this position by the regional superintendent of schools. And since I have quite a bit of experience with video lessons and things like that, I've been primarily focused on helping our educators go virtual during COVID-19. But we continue to reinforce the message that our Life Education Center programs by working with our 9 area high schools. We put kids into leadership roles in our Pledge for Life Partnership Youth Advisory Council. The high school kids help us out quite a bit with prevention efforts. Our coalition is data driven. We are responsible. We administer the Illinois Youth Survey to all 8th, 10th, and 12th grade students in our county. And we use that data to implement strategies to reduce substance misuse in our community. So here's some of the things that we've been working on since I started my position back in 2020. I think I started in July. Excuse me. We work closely with the Kankakee Health Department on a lot of different things. As a member of the Opioid Task Force, we do Narcan training and do distribution on site. On average, we give out about 200 doses of Narcan per month through the mail or through a no questions asked pickup at the health department. And by the way, if anyone is interested in obtaining Narcan or training, feel free to contact me and I'll put you in touch with the right people. International Overdose Day. Our youth created a radio PSA. The Kankakee County coroner, Bob Gessner, did a radio interview, and I also did a radio spot that set the stage for our upcoming DEA Drug Take Back Day. We work closely with the Kankakee Area Metropolitan Enforcement Group, that's KMEG, and local hospitals, and together this year, although it was delayed in April, we did have a DEA Take Back Day in October, and this year we hosted an in-person, socially distanced prescription drug take back day in which we broke a record. We had 1,125 pounds of unwanted and unused medicines that were collected that day. So our efforts were featured on Prevention First website, and we had local newspaper coverage as well. KMED's director, Chris Kerner, did local radio interviews that ended up being really successful. Our YSC kids helped out. It was just nice seeing everybody after being on lockdown. So September and October, we set up our wares at the Kankakee Farmers Market. We distributed information about safe disposal of medications. We passed out our doTERRA home medication disposal bags to community members, as well as information on local drop box locations. So I think we have a flyer. If you guys just want to maybe just real quick, if you can, pop that flyer. But this is like some of the stuff that we do through our grants and our funding. We provided drop box locations to all of our local police departments and different areas around our county. And, you know, throughout the year, people can just drop off, no questions asked. And then during Drug Take Back Day, we go around and we collect all of those things. So that's how that works. Okay. So you can pop that off. And so let's see, what did I want to say about that flyer? Oh yeah, we also have Spanish versions. We do most of our educational material in both Spanish and English. So I just encourage you to check out our website and social media pages to see our campaigns on prescription drug misuse, marijuana, and alcohol. Currently, we're running 2 parent communication campaigns, Keep Showing Up. They're still growing up, and Talk They Hear You. We're kind of teaching parents how to talk to kids about substance misuse. So our website, pledgeforlife.org, everything's Pledge for Life, basically. Our Facebook page and Instagram and Twitter, you know, the whole deal. So anyway, due to COVID-19, we've worked to increase our social media footprint and have begun creating these PSAs and other videos to engage our audience. Now, I try to get all of our educators involved. We have a mascot. He's a giant giraffe named Harold, and we make all these cute little PSAs to, you know, help family members get through the COVID and, you know, all those kinds of things. But I'll apologize in advance. I definitely have a face for radio, but here's a PSA I made on the doTERRA home disposal kits that were supplied to us from RALI. So we have go ahead.
Did you know oftentimes suicide by overdose could have been prevented with simple precautions such as safe disposal of your medications? Hi, this is Jim Schreiner, Drug Free Communities Grant Project Coordinator from the ICANN Regional Office of Education and the Pledge for Life Partnership. I got something for you here. Check this out. This is a home disposal system that you can pick up from us at the ICANN Regional Office of Education. It's free. Watch how this works. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to unzip the bag and I'm going to go ahead and dispose my medication inside. Okay. It'll hold up to, this particular size pouch will hold up to 45 pills, okay? 6 ounces of liquid or about 6 patches. The only thing you can't put in there is sharp, so we're just gonna go ahead and dump the medicine in there. This is what you wanna safely dispose of. You can dispose of any kinds of medicine, including opioids, safely dispose of them at home. And then all you have to do is just add some warm water, about half a bag, and then wait for about 30 seconds, okay? And then seal it up. Nice. Shake the bag, and then you can safely dispose of your medications in the trash. It renders the medications inert, and like I say, it's safe for the environment. And once again, you can pick them up from the Regional Office of Education. We're located at 1 Stewart Drive in Kankakee, out by exit 308. Stop by and pick up a few free disposal kits for yourself and your family members. It will be a contactless pickup, so no worries there. And also too, please take a moment to visit the Pledge for Life Partnership's website, pledgeforlife.org, if you need information about talking with your kids about substance misuse.
Okay. So I guess really what I want to say is we put those bags to a good use in our community. And I just wanted to publicly thank the people at RALI for providing us with those kits. So thank you very much for allowing me to share some of the things we're doing to reduce substance misuse in our community. I'm just a small piece of a very large puzzle, but glad to be a part of it. Feel free to email me with any questions or if you just want to reach out. Mark, thanks.
Thank you, Jim. And wow, you guys are doing a lot. I don't know how you also found time to help the schools out with distance learning, but it's pretty phenomenal. So thank you so much, Jim.
Yeah, appreciate being here. Thank you.
And next, I have the pleasure of introducing Mike Mccosey and Megan Dugan from Trinity Family Counseling Center. Mike Mccosey graduated from the Illinois School of Professional Psychology in 2008 with his doctorate in clinical psychology. Mike has worked at Trinity Services in a number of different roles, including clinical director, director of behavioral health services, and now a staff psychologist. In 2013, High Tide Press published Mike's book, The Other Side of Pain, Discovering Meaning When Life Hurts. And Megan Dugan graduated with her Master of Science in Art Therapy from Mount Mary University in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. For the last 8 years, she's had the fulfillment of working in multiple domains, from residential settings, outpatient and inpatient care, hospice, and the nonprofit and community sectors. She's had the pleasure of being part of many organizations and philanthropic groups. Through those connections, she's been awarded the Community Engagement Award at Carroll University in 2013 and was an artist for the nonprofit event for Gibson Guitars called Guitar Town. Her passion is working with others and encouraging them to find their potential and build self-confidence either through art or some other creative form. Through her practice, she has seen others affected or struggling with substance use and is seeking to find creative ways to help engage them in services. Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Megan, for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. So Mike, I was thinking that I could probably talk about the FCC centers, and then maybe you can talk about the other aspects that Trinity is doing as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's great to see everyone tonight, and thanks for everyone for joining. We appreciate being here. Like Mark had said, my name is Megan. I am the supervisor for the Joliet Family Counseling Center for Trinity Services. Trinity is a very large company. The FCC's is just a small chunk of it, but we do a lot of good work. Through the past year, we've definitely seen exactly what everyone's kind of echoing, is that there's a different need for creative help in reaching out to others. And so that's exactly what the Family Counseling Center has done. We've gone completely virtual. We've met needs to our clients. And luckily, and we've been thankful enough that there really hasn't been a stop in service. There's only been an increase. Though it's not in person, the engagement is still there. I think the biggest thing that FCC is really working on within Trinity is working with our partnership within Will County with our recovery support specialists. And what they are is bridging that gap, what we're seeing. So before someone gets into therapy, but they need help, it might be something along the services of, I need just that peer support in order to talk about what's going on, to talk about my struggle with my addiction, or a struggle with the addiction of my, with the loved one who is going through addiction. And they're kind of helping bridge that support in between their first initial intake and then also engaging them in mental health services. And together we're doing that partnership where we're working together to not only supply them with community support and getting them connected and feel supported by another peer who's understanding what they might be going through, but then also with that mental health aspect.
Yeah, thanks, Megan, and thanks, Mark. And as Megan said, Trinity is a large organization, and the Family Counseling Center is part of that. And like Megan said, there's obviously been the increased need for mental health and substance misuse supports throughout the pandemic. And we've been able to really engage with that in a couple other unique ways. So about a little over 3 years ago, we became involved in providing homeless support services. So HUD funding, we received the grants for those. And what was really interesting as the pandemic hits, it became even more important, to really support and help persons who are homeless get housed. And that's something that cannot be done virtually. And so our homeless support team, what ended up happening is the shelters actually temporarily moved to a hotel, and a homeless support team actually located in a local hotel. And while lots of places were shutting down, they housed well over 50 persons who were homeless, and actually received increased funding and grants through United Way, Will County, to continue to provide housing. So it was just an amazing opportunity. And we all know how much mental health and substance misuse can impact persons who are homeless or can contribute to that. And so that's something that throughout the pandemic, we've continued to be able to support. In addition, pre-pandemic, we partnered with Orland Park Police Department and were awarded a federal Justice Department grant to develop a mobile crisis response unit where we co-respond with officers when a person is presenting either with mental health or substance misuse needs. Unfortunately, as there's more and more demand for mental health or substance misuse supports, it seems like there's less supply. And oftentimes, and Sheriff Mendrick could definitely speak to this, law enforcement ends up being the first point of contact for persons with mental health presentation. And so this grant has really been exciting because it's allowed us to develop a team that responds on site, that can meet with the person, can meet in a very non-threatening way, engage, determine, does the person need hospitalization? Does the person need a session right away? Does the person need some other support that can really help them manage this crisis and then develop the connections they need so the crisis doesn't have to repeat? And then sort of we built on that and recently were awarded funding to establish a living room. Now, we probably all feel like we've been spending too much time in a living room, but this is a little bit different. Living rooms are really they're an alternative to the emergency room. You know, oftentimes what happens when a person's in crisis, mental health crisis, they end up presenting to an emergency room. There might be long lines. It's a place that can be uncomfortable. And so a living room is really an alternative where we have, as Megan described, recovery support specialists, persons with lived experience, and then licensed professionals creating a very safe environment, right? There literally are couches, there's a TV, it's a place a person can come, get some water, get some food, take a deep breath, talk to somebody who knows what they're experiencing, establish some connections, case management, find resources in the community. And it's a way to really ideally prevent hospitalization if that's not needed, and to help the person develop necessary skills going forward. So that's something that we just actually opened literally about a month ago that we're really excited about as well. So, you know, like Megan said, we're really grateful to be part of this. I mean, the fact of the matter is we're all in this together, and we're excited to be in this together. And, you know, we're thankful for the opportunity to talk about what Trinity's doing, and honestly to hear all the cool things. Pledge for Life, and that was great. Love that PSA, Jim, and that giraffe is really cool. So thank you, Mark and RALI, for inviting us here. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I agree. And all of our information, just like Jim had said, is on our website. We do have a Facebook page as well. You can find information for the living room as well as the FCC centers. And I think another big thing is that we're a no turn down service. So, I mean, if you need to be on a sliding scale, you have Medicaid, you have private insurance, we're willing to help. We want that connection for you. And we are one that if, you know, we can't help you, we're going to try and find who can. So, you know, we don't turn anybody down, but I echo with Mike. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mike and Megan. Really phenomenal things you all are doing, and really from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you for the work you're doing for such vulnerable people. It really sounds like you're able to reach some people that are really in a lot of need, and that's really special. So thank you. Next, I'm going to turn it over and have the pleasure of introducing Sheriff James Mendrick of the Illinois Sheriff's Association. Sheriff Mendrick brings experience, knowledge, and expertise to the DuPage County Sheriff's Office from his 24 years of serving the citizens of DuPage County. He's risen through the ranks to head the Sheriff's Office in the second largest county in Illinois. Jim was hired in 1996 as a patrol deputy, and through his career was promoted to corporal, sergeant, lieutenant, major, administrative chief, and finally elected sheriff. Jim studied criminal justice at Lewis University and completed the School of Police Staff and Command at Northwestern University. During his time at the Sheriff's Office, he was instrumental in many facets of the agency, but as sheriff, he has fostered the culture of hope and purpose and focused on the improvement and well-being of citizenry. Since taking office in December 2018, Sheriff Mendrick has partnered with the DuPage County Health Department to institute medication-assisted treatment for inmates fighting opioid addiction and promoted the use of the deterra system to keep dangerous medications out of our medicine cabinets and waterways. Under the leadership of Sheriff Mendrick, 36 neighboring police agencies united in September 2019 to form an unprecedented sharing of resources and manpower under the SHIELD Multi-Emergency Response Investigations Team, or MERIT. Jim continues to focus on improving our community through active participation in cross-agency training and partnerships. And thank you so much for your service, Jim, and welcome Sheriff Mendrick to the webinar.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for that very nice introduction. And it's funny you mentioned deterra because I've got them here. we have given out probably about 12,000 of these so far. And we got them with a grant through the Illinois Sheriff's Association. So we understand it's called siphoning, where people will siphon someone's medications away from them. If you have 4 pill bottles and they take 1 pill out of, bottles 1 and 3 today, 2 and 4 tomorrow, they can siphon for quite some time before they get caught when they're taking more than, won't be noticed. So those bags have been great. We've been handing them out everywhere we go. What I found out is almost 25 years of law enforcement, but the last 2 years that I've been elected have been unlike the other 23 years. I mean, the last 2 years have brought a lot of change and challenge, different things that we have to respond to differently. The needs of society and our citizenry are changing. We actually ended up having to convert a good portion of our what I would call enforcement operation over the last year to feeding people. Where we work with a lot of local food providers and restaurants where they donate food, and then we feed impoverished communities. For Thanksgiving, we did, I think, 1,000 turkeys with the pan to cook it in and stuffing and all that. We're going to do 600 hams coming up here for Easter. We did Christmas Eve food deliveries. Last year, we fed almost 11,000 families, and this year we've already done 1,600. We work with Meals on Wheels. We do a lot of community service like that. That became the need. It's housing and hunger right now are 2 big things because unemployment is skyrocketing. All crime categories are spiked like I've never seen in my career. Overdose numbers are outrageous. There's a lot of stuff going on, and like I know somebody said earlier, you can't e-learn therapy. You can't replace one-on-one therapy. So we've identified that in our correctional system. And when I started a couple of years ago, we were kind of a punitive model. Just you lock somebody up, they do their time, and then they get out when they're supposed to get out. What I did, as soon as I started, I think within the first 2 weeks, I doubled the entire budgetary role of just of DuPage. That's our main backbone of our rehabilitative services at our correctional facility. Because when we get people coming in after making a bad decision, 80% of the people coming to us are either on alcohol or drugs. So we have to start with a detox programs first. So we start detoxing and drug recovery. It really takes a good month of that. So we can find out, because half of the people that come in are taking these things because they're self-medicating for mental health issues. So we have to first peel off the addiction. We do that process. Once we can peel off the addiction, we can kind of discover what your actual underlying psychological issues are. And then we, might be medication-assisted treatment, might be therapies. We do a great array of, everything from family counseling, anger management, violence management, all different denominations. Every denomination is included for all kinds of religious services. We present these all in different languages. We offer Vivitrol. We do GED programs. We do vocational training. And, vocational training is where we train people for a trade within the correctional facility. And then when they get out, they can get an $18 to $20 an hour job. We just got a $350,000 grant to have an entire welding station built within my correctional facility. So those are going to be really good jobs. Those will be good union jobs for people to get and keep stable. We also work with Suits for Success. We give people 3 suits when they do these programs. So when they get out, they're looking sharp when they do their job interviews. They're confident. We take all this stuff very seriously. And we also we've graduated now 12 classes of janitorial. We called it sanitation when we started this almost 2 years ago. When COVID came, it turned into contagion control because the need for cleanliness became, all the way up here. That was like the number one. I'll be honest, we kept COVID out of our entire jail for all of 2020. And that's a 500-person indoor environment with 200 transient employees going home and coming to work every day. Very stressful, but because we had that contagion control team, how does COVID get you? There's two ways: through the air. So we changed our HVAC ventilation system, dial it up way past its normal capacity, externally vented it. That way you have clean air, no one's breathing the same air. And then the second was this contagion control team. So those were the two ways it can get you: air, touch. We made sure we're the cleanest jail. I take the Pepsi challenge against any other jail. We will win. And not only that, the third element is incubation period. Early on, ask the health department, hey, how many days can somebody get sick from when, they had it? They say 14. So we depopulated our 4th floor of our correctional facility and made a 15-day, just one extra day, just for margin of error, a 15-day. Anybody new coming into my correctional facility does 15 days on a vacant floor. So after 15 days, then they can go down into general population, and general population is safe. Then we know it's controlled, and we know we're keeping it clean. We're keeping the air clean. Everyone's wearing masks. We're doing all that kind of stuff. So we've managed to keep it through a program that is actually rehabilitative. I'm a religious person. I believe God's work somehow works in some of this stuff too. But that type of work is what's getting people through. We call it hope and purpose, because you start with detox. You do all these different, psychological services. Then you move into vocationals. Then we do Vivitrol, for people who will want it. That's a 1-month suspended solution shot where heroin won't affect you for a month. But then we do reentry. We have reentry specialists that follows you out of the correctional facility, make sure that the home environment is appropriate for you, and there's not a better place that maybe we can help you get to. There's many times we found alternate housing. And these programs work because we've had at least 50 correspondences where people are sending us mail saying, I'd be dead of a heroin overdose if I didn't, come and do your programs. So when we consistently see that, we know that we're doing the right thing. It's an A to Z. You can't leave any element out, and we're always looking to add extra arrows into our quiver every time something new. We're talking about. I'm probably not going to pronounce this right. I think it's called buprenorphine. It's like the in between of Vivitrol and Suboxone, methadone, an agonist and an antagonist together that creates a mid-ground to help with detoxing. So every time something like that pops up, we're always looking to innovate and go further in what we create. Actually, I have a really neat thing that we just partnered with Axon Technologies, where it's a virtual reality helmet that is going to be for mental health training. Because right now we're the largest CIT instructor for the whole county. We've trained about 750 police officers. We're the trainers for. That's, in CIT, that's training basically to de-escalation. People are videotaped. They are given scenarios with people exhibiting the signs of mental health issues. And I mean, these actors are good. They're method actors. And if you hit the right buttons, you're going to jack them up. And if not, you're going to de-escalate them. It works. And it's videotaped, critiqued, gives us a chance to measure people's decibel levels when they're approaching. Are they being nice, courteous? How's their flexion, body language, all those things within the first 30 seconds to a minute, you're determining how that relationship's going to go. We train those things. We've done that for 4 years. And that's why I got to say, since I've been elected, not one citizen use of force complaint from one of my people. So that's because we train the de-escalation. It really works. It's how you approach somebody in that first minute. We're developing training right now for our correctional facility that is going to be specifically for basically diversity training. You know how we get our data? My deputies went into the correctional facility, started interviewing 60, 70 inmates, finding out what their flashpoint was with the law enforcement that caused uses of force. And we found out that one was very common, where the police asked for a driver's license without probable cause for a crime. People really hate that when they don't have to, they're getting asked for a license and they should. So that's going to be a slide in our new training, and that's going to be one of our scenarios. But that's real data. That's not saying that I'm going to, make some fluffy de-escalation stuff that really is just, signing an indemnity form for our agency. That's not it. It's practical data from the environment of people who are being incarcerated at our county DuPage that we're mitigating with now is where we get our data. That's real data, so we can have real solutions that are going to work, not just, fluff. So I'd say with what we're doing, we've modified a lot. Obviously, we're constantly changing, but the needs of our society are changing. And even with some of this new stuff coming up, we're ahead of the game. Even all the new standards of the House bill, the one thing that it won't affect is the training and stuff for some of our things that we're actually so far ahead of, where I think actually what that House bill, I think we're where they want to be. We have found a reformative continuum of care that actually works, that actually is fixing people And again, when you get so many correspondence from people saying that, hey, incarceration actually fixed me. Incarceration is punitive, but the penalty is an intervention. A lot of people need that intervention to say, hey, wake up, stop what you're doing. Most people who are heroin addicts, their families know they're in a correctional facility. They refuse to bail them out. They don't want them to come back home, start stealing and start doing dope again. They want them in a facility where they're going to get fixed. And that's what we do. So I know it's pretty long-winded, a lot of information, but that's kind of some of the challenge that we've been dealing with over the last 2 years.
Sheriff Mendrick, thank you so much for sharing all that with us. I liked what you said as you were telling us about all the things happening in the jail. I was thinking of the exact term that you used towards the end, which is that you have a real continuum of care and services that really helps move people through a lot of the support that they need and that they could possibly get while they're with you. And I also liked what you said about helping people to find a purpose and how neat it is that through this vocational program that you have for sanitation, these folks were the ones who were able to also keep your facility safe when it came down to it. Really very cool.
Yeah, and that's an interesting dynamic that I saw deputies and people who are incarcerated working together against a virus instead of working. So the conflicts between deputies and the inmates have dropped dramatically too, because you're providing a help environment where there's mutual benefit to each other, and it can be done differently. And we have found that every other week we can add something new to what we're doing. So it's not just what it is, it's an evolution. And every time that it's like people like your services, if everybody that we partner with allows us to do more, allows us to do joint grants, get more money. Because all of this and everything that I named out there too was $3.2 million in grants that we found to facilitate all this. None of this was taxpayer money. We even have a horticultural training where our female incarcerated people are growing up to 2,000 pounds of food for local food pantries every year. And they get outside, that's so therapeutic. They learn horticulture. There's a science to that stuff that I'll never understand, but it's another thing that we can offer in that continuum of care.
Yeah, that's really great. Thank you so much, Sheriff Mendrick. And I'm going to go ahead and turn now to Joe Abdallah and have the distinct pleasure of introducing my friend Joe. Joe served with the Metropolitan Police Department in DC from 1984 to 2014 in a variety of drug enforcement roles. He was the lead investigator in over 30 criminal investigations to identify and prosecute criminal drug organizations operating in the District of Columbia. Following his law enforcement career, Joe has worked on philanthropic efforts to improve relationships between law enforcement and their communities. As executive director of Code 3, Joe oversees all strategic and operational activities. Joe's going to take us on a virtual tour of the RALI Cares trailer, which I think you're all going to find very enlightening and also engaging. So Joe, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mark. And real quickly, I'd just like to tell people how we came about with both the virtual tour and our physical trailer, which we take parents through. We use first responders as well as police officers going into teen bedrooms where overdoses had taken place, as well as parents who had lost kids to opioid misuse. We asked them what they knew now that they didn't know then, what would they pass on to other parents. Also, a large part of the tour is based on kids in recovery that walked through the trailer with us and helped us with their struggles of what they went through so we could pass on to help others. And I just say before we start the tour, I go through with parents before we enter some signs of opioid misuse. And I tell them it creates this super enhanced state of a very sedated, very lethargic, very relaxed condition. The moms always reported that they saw a decrease in their child's hygiene, a decrease in their diet. There would be a new group of friends that the parents wouldn't see. Usually, I've heard it mentioned here earlier, money or valuables will start disappearing from the house. And what's not talked about often is cold or flu symptoms. Once you begin using or misusing opiates, your body begins to build a tolerance. So you need more and more to get that same desired effect. Once you don't have it, then your body starts to go through withdrawal, which is very similar to what the kids describe as the flu times 10. Sweating, chills, nausea, vomiting, severe back pain, those types of issues. If you're seeing those, we encourage parents to hopefully start taking a look. So we begin the tour in the trailer in the closet areas, which where I always begin. I tell parents when we walk through with the kids in recovery that were going to help us, every single one of them smiled when we get to the closet. It's a very daunting location, but I'm telling you, it's probably the most common hiding spot. There's a plethora of hiding spots. If you go through a closet between jackets, shirts, pants, coats, shoes, all the boxes and other purses and things, it's a great place to start looking. And I talk about the shoes and the necktie first. When we start the tour, we ask the parents the only question through the tours, if you see anything the shoes are missing. A number of them are missing shoestrings. They're very commonly used as tourniquets for those that are injecting or IV drug use. Shoestrings, hoodie strings, belts, ties. And we tell parents, if you're finding these in that loop position where they can be used to cut off their circulation to produce the vein for injection, if you're seeing them in like the bathroom, like a necktie where you usually wouldn't see it, maybe on the bed, if you're seeing those in locations where they don't normally fit and you're seeing these behaviors, might be worth a closer look. Shoes are a great hiding spot. I tell parents underneath the sole of the shoe, if it's glued down, don't rip it up, but get your hand deep, deep into the tongue of the shoe. It's a great hiding spot. And what I like to do is show you, this is a very, very common form of packaging. It's a corner of a sandwich bag. It contains about 1 gram of heroin or representative heroin. And the bag is then twisted and it's tied in that knot that you see at the top here. And then it's sold to a user. Now, the important thing is when that's going to be used, it's not untied at the top. The buyer is going to take that. They're going to rip it with their teeth or they're going to tear it off. And here's what it leaves behind. We call it a tail. At the top of that bag, that's what it looks like when it's ripped off. I cannot tell you how many moms especially said they used to find that in their vacuum cleaner canisters, washers, dryers, or laying on their children's floor, thought it was some kind of candy wrapper. And what's really important about that packaging, it's universal. I've been to 25 states with our trailer. We're usually in Walmart or Target parking lots. First thing I do is go get the managers. In every state I've been in, they say, I find that kind of stuff in my parking lot and in my bathrooms every single day. Doesn't matter where you're at in the country. The other really important part about the packaging I just showed you, packaging for illicit drugs hasn't changed in decades. So although you might not have an opioid misuse problem, there's some type of illicit drug use. Cocaine, Molly, methamphetamine, marijuana, they're all packaged very similar in those. So again, a red flag indicator of some type of drug use. The jacket pocket in the closet, we point this out, there's a syringe in it. What we tell parents is if you're going to take on this task, try and wear gloves and feel around the pocket before you reach into it. A lot of times the needle protector is not on the syringes. These are commonly used or shared with IV drug users. I tell parents, you know your child's medical history, you don't know that of who it's being shared with. So if you can, feel around the pocket before you reach in and wear gloves. From here, we go to the bathroom. And I will tell you 2 quick points I thought were really important that a number of moms who lost kids told me. Addiction often starts in the bathroom. They said their kids will be in there for an hour or 2. They can hear running water. When they come out, there's no hygiene issues addressed. But bathroom is a place you don't walk in your kid like you would in a living room or a bedroom. Another really important one is prescription pills, specifically opiates like Oxycontin. They can be smoked as well as snorted or injected. A number of the moms said they would know when their child was crushing prescription pills and smoking them because it would smell like burnt marshmallows. And if you look at the dynamics or the makeup of a pill, an Oxycontin pill contains, say, 30 milligrams of oxycodone, but it also contains lactose, which is a sugar. And if you think about marshmallows, there's sugar, water, and vanilla. But something very key, if you ever smell burnt marshmallows inside your home, might be worth a look into, or again, another note to take fact of. In the bathroom, we start in the trash can. As you can see, the bottom of the trash from the left, the little orange and the white, they look like thimbles. The only people that know what those are in our tour are medical personnel and people that have diabetic cats. And it's the actual plunger protector to a syringe. The needle end, you can see, the kids in recovery told us they were much more discreet about destroying this, flushing it down the toilet because people know what it is. The actual plunger cap looks like a marker cap or could be some type of glue cap. They were much more not as cautious with that. And again, it's one of the things moms used to say they found laying around bedrooms or in trash cans, but a red flag indicator of some type of use. Prescription pills can be crushed. placed on a piece of foil, as well as heroin and fentanyl, and be smoked. Here's a better representative sample of the one we have in there. If you're seeing any pieces of foil like this, whether you see that almost look like a slug line of the substance going down, 100% indicator of some type of either prescription pill or heroin or fentanyl placed on there. You place a heat source underneath of it and they vaporize. And you'll commonly see a straw is used, hollow pen casings. You can also roll a piece of tinfoil into like a straw to suck in those vapors as they come off. So be aware of those items as well. On the bathroom sink, if you see the Coke can to the right, these are very common. You can get them on Amazon or in gas stations. That Coke can, the top unscrews, so it's like a void compartment. I don't think they're as common as people think they are. I don't think kids are buying them in large numbers, but they do use them. I'm more of an old school hiding spaces, which I'll talk to you about in a little bit. But in our Coke can there, we have they're called stamp bags. It's literally the size of my thumbnail, but it's the same premise as a sandwich bag that you zip at the top. Drug dealers buy these by the thousands. They are common all across this country. And again, they are universal for packaging drugs. This is about a $10 bag representative of heroin. What's really important about this, as the other bag I showed you, when this is going to be used, that top is either torn off or it's bitten off with the teeth. And here's what it leaves behind. That little piece that you see here off the top. Again, I cannot tell you how many moms told me they found these in their vacuum cleaners, washers, and dryers laying all over the child's bedroom. I would say anything I talked to you about here as well, besides the bedroom, you can find in the car that your child operates as well. Also in our Coke can, we have a 2-inch piece of straw. It's not the world's smallest drinking straw. Again, red flag indicator, has absolutely no legitimate purpose. These are used for when prescription pills are crushed or heroin or fentanyl are going to be snorted. They place it up to the nose to snort it in. What happens is, and why parents find these, as you snort the powder through, it develops moisture. So then the product begins to stick to the inside. This will be discarded, but oftentimes you'll find a slice down the side. They'll open it up and scrape out anything that's inside there, mix it with water, and they will either drink it or inject it, but they're not going to let it go to waste. So if you look just to the left of the Pepsi can, you can see those black char marks. A lot of heroin users, especially powder heroin and fentanyl and crushed prescription pills, they can be injected. Heroin HCl or heroin hydrochloride is water soluble. You don't need to heat it. But as they pass down from distributors to street dealers, heroin, they place dilutants on it. All the dealers place dilutants to stretch the product. So mostly things you find at GMC, milk sugars, vitamin Bs, caffeine. But when these are added to the heroin, it now has to be mixed with water and heated to dissolve before it's drawn up into a syringe. And I wanted to show you probably the most common heating item that we find for illicit drugs is a spoon. And I always think that people know what these are, but I've talked to a number of moms that didn't know about their son or daughter's addiction and used to find burnt spoons all over their house. What's very key to these, on the front, you can see the residue it leaves when it's heated. On the back, you can see that black charring mark. And that's exactly what's on that kitchen sink there. It's not talked about a lot, but what happens is that spoon is reused over and over again. Every single time a flame hits that bottom of the spoon, that charring is there. So everything that touches, whether it be the top of the sink, if they're in the bathroom, they'll get it onto their hands. You'll start to see it on light fixtures, door handles. When it moves to a bedroom, as addiction often does, you'll start to see it on sheets. But that soot is very identifying. What you see on the left side of the sink is a Q-tip. What that Q-tip is missing is one end of the cotton. This is a myth from the 60s. I still don't understand it, but before that, once that liquid is dissolved, the powder is dissolved, and before it's drawn up into the syringe, they place a piece of cotton right on top of the syringe, as you can see there, and they're going to draw up that liquid through the cotton, believing that it's going to filter out any impurities. Does nothing of the sort. Can cause respiratory infections, and that piece of cotton is used over and over again. It stays moist, so it begins to grow bacteria. So very dangerous. And just like I showed you the little packaging materials, those cotton balls are often discarded as well. So if you're starting to see dried cotton balls, it could be anywhere from a light gray to a tan to a brown or a white, red flag indicators. And I just want to show you one other quick one. This is the bottom of a soda can. You can see the black marks that it leaves. And again, it's concave, so you can place the heroin and the liquid in it, and you can also see the little piece of cotton. But anything you can think of like this, little tea candle holders are very common. And when you see those used to heat, you're always going to find like a little pair of pliers or tweezers, because you can't hold those in your hand, they get too hot. So if you're seeing these next to any kind of tweezers or small tool, very common for heating. So we move up from the sink into the medicine cabinet. Inside of the toothpaste container, we have some more packaging that I wanted to show you. These are wax paper packets, again, universal throughout the country, sold on the internet, dealers buy them by the thousands. You can see one has a scorpion on it. The other has a gentleman that's holding his crotch and flipping the middle finger. You don't buy any legal medications from CVS or anywhere else where you see that type of insignias. Usually you'll find these when they're purchased or folded or rolled as you see here. Again, and these are pretty specific to heroin and fentanyl, the packaging that I just showed you there. But again, the Ziplocs I showed you and that bag from the shoe, across the board, everywhere in the country, universal packaging. So if you look at the medicine cabinet, on the bottom, you'll see there's a constipation medicine, and there's also medication for diarrhea, over the counter. But what happens is both legal and illegal opiates cause constipation. What the kids told us was they would buy something for constipation, not follow the instructions, drink too much, have diarrhea, and then they need to drink something else to stop it. What I tell parents is if your young adult in your house has an issue or a digestive issue, usually you would know about it. Usually you're the one that would be purchasing these items for them. So it might be worth a question if you start to see them in the bedroom. Also, nausea relief medicine, a very common side effect of legal and illegal opiates, the usage and withdrawals is nausea and vomiting. So again, if you're seeing them and you don't know of an existing issue, might be worth a question. So we move from here to the bedroom. On top of the bed, or in and around the bed, and if you look to the top of the bed, addiction often moves from a bedroom to a bathroom. What the kids told us is, as you into the addiction, as you're becoming sicker, your guard's going to be down. You're not as cautious. You look for these bed sheets for the burn marks, for the char marks, but as well, each time there's an injection, there's a small amount of blood, not a lot, but parents started to see it on the bedroom sheets. What you also start to see, a lot of kids said they were smokers. And after they would inject or while they were high, as they were sitting in the bed, they would smoke a cigarette. And they said they would have burn holes, not just in their sheets, but in their clothing. So something to be aware of. And what you see to the right of that is a hollow pen casing and a straw, additional paraphernalia, which we've gone over. Let's see, the bedside table. What you see in the front is a spoon, which we've already been over. To the back, you see the kit, the small like shaving kit. Almost every young teenager we find overdose in a car, whether it be in a big box store parking lots or behind the Wendy's dumpster, has one of these kits. They're called works kits. If your kid is sick at home, beginning to go through withdrawals, they're going to see their local supplier. They're not driving all the way back home to ingest. So they don't want to leave the house with a syringe in a pocket, a tourniquet in another, a lighter in another pocket. These works kit contain everything they need to ingest. It might be in the form of a shaving kit, makeup kit, any small purse, pouch, or compartment that your kid is never without. I would suggest to parents it's worth getting into, especially if the car that they operate usually is unlocked and the keys are left in a common area, but now the car is locked and they keep the keys in the room, might be worth taking a look. The water bottle that you see there, another very similar to the Coke can. It actually has water in the top and the bottom of it. If you just take it and twist it, it breaks apart. It was a hollow compartment inside. The alarm clock in the back. We found that with young males, the guys in recovery said, alarm clocks like this, they have a battery, but they plug in. So the battery is just for a backup. So it's a fairly large, what we call void space, really good for putting in small items of drug packaging. As well as game station controllers, because they said if they're hooked to the console, they don't need that battery. Again, it's a free, empty, void compartment. Then we go on top of the dresser. These items that you see on top of the dresser, there's the game station controller. The mouse that you see and the calculator that you see are fully operational. The mouse works on a computer, the calculator works. But if you just simply remove the tops of them, they're actually digital scales. And what we find is a lot of kids who begin using that or don't have the funds, or their parents are aware that they're stealing, that they need money for purchasing, they'll start to hustle, what we call hustle, where they'll pull theirs and their friends' money and they'll do the big or the small purchase, and then they'll divide it out amongst their friends. But since they were the one that purchased it, they'll get theirs for free. So these mouse you see in this calculator, they're actually very accurate digital scales. So manipulate things with your hands. If you're having any of these suspicions at all, simply manipulating those, they're very easy to see that they're digital scales. The only thing I would tell you about these as well, kids don't have their professional packaging like I've showed you. What these kids do when they're weighing it out here are their doses if the 5 of them are going to split it. Lottery tickets after it's weighed out, lottery tickets, receipts, pieces of gum wrapper, magazine, very common. If you're finding them folded up and they don't have like a love note, a phone number, a message, sometimes you feel a powder residue, things to look for if you happen to find like a digital scale. But a lot of people affiliate those just with dealers. The young kids who are selling to support their habit use these as well. Behind the pictures, nothing behind there that we have hidden in the trailer. What I do is to tell parents it's a free void space. There's a 2-inch gap between those pictures and the wall. I could hide ounces of drugs back there. Socks that are bundled up in the drawer underneath clean t-shirts, the dirty clothes hamper. And the reason to do that is because you don't want to go in a dirty clothes hamper, but it's a great hiding spot. In the HVAC vents, what does your child having with them 24/7? Their phone. You'd be surprised what you can fit behind cell phone casing. So I leave and I tell this story. There was a gentleman in Minnesota that came through the trailer that said it was a hammer, a crescent wrench on his son's bed for the last year of his life before he lost him. And he said, my son wasn't a mechanic and he wasn't a construction worker. But he said, I never asked the question. After he lost his son, he found that his son used to use that crescent wrench to crush prescription pills so he could ingest them, whether shoot them or snort them. And I only tell that story to tell parents it's worth asking a question. You can do this type of search without being intrusive or disrespectful to your kid. Hopefully, if you do it, you find nothing and you're self-assured. I hope that was helpful, and thank you for having me.
Joe, it's always such a pleasure, and I feel like I learn something new every time you give that presentation. So thank you so much, as always. Very, very enlightening. In the interest of time, we are at the Q&A portion of our webinar. What I'd like to do is just real quick do a little bit of a lightning round. I have a quick question for each of our panelists, and then turn it over to Representative Mazzochi for some closing remarks, and we'll wrap it up. So I'm going to start with you, Jim, if you don't mind. You mentioned your efforts around prescription drug disposal, and I was blown away that you said 1,125 pounds of medications that were collected at the last collection. But you also mentioned your efforts around building resiliency in young people. And I think a lot of people probably understand how getting rid of unused medications relates to prevention. I'd love to hear real quick how that building resiliency really fits into your efforts to prevent substance use. I think it's very interesting.
Well, at the Pledge for Life, since we start at school-age kids, kindergarten through middle school, we focus yearly on giving these kids the ability to, sort of fight against peer pressure, to give them these skills to make good choices. We develop different types of skills where they sort of do the play acting, where they have opportunities to sort of answer questions the way that they would if their friends was trying to get them to do something that's, so it's that kind of scenario that we just continually reinforce on a yearly basis. Prevention is really about young kids. That's what it is. So we start young and we just keep doing what we do all the way through middle school.
Thanks, Jim. It sounds like you guys are giving them some really important tools as they're growing, and things that probably serve them well throughout their lives. So thank you. Mike and Megan, you talked about the role of recovery support specialists in both early parts of your program, getting people engaged, and in your new living room, which sounds like a really cool program you all have started there. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of having people with lived experience involved in your efforts and the value that they add to the work you're doing?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. I think when a person is going through and experiencing whether it's substance abuse challenges or mental health challenges, it's a scary time. And, I think sometimes one of the most challenging things about depression or anxiety is you end up feeling like you're alone, like nobody else gets it. And it can be so isolating. And so to be able to meet with and develop a relationship with somebody who has a little bit of experience, who's been able to recover successfully, there's so much hope in that, right? Because you see somebody who has lived it, who understands it, and I just think it can be easier to connect. It can feel safer, right? It can feel much less threatening. I'm not speaking to somebody who, I don't know, do they really know what I'm experiencing? That is learning in a book versus this person really has gotten it. And, for persons who are recovery support specialists, they've gone through the training of when to self-disclose and how to do that in a way that really is encouraging and empowering. So it's something, again, that's new to us at Trinity in terms of being able to really use recovery support specialists, but it is something we're really excited about. And, again, we're already seeing the benefits.
Yeah, and I echo with Mike. I think there's that perceived kind of barrier that kind of comes with therapy on, well, you're a professional, you learn this out of a book, how do you've never lived this, you've never lived my life. And when you kind of bring in that kind of peer support, like Mike had said, it takes us, it kind of puts at ease that it's not a book, it's a lived experience. And so though it, like Mike had said, it's very new to Trinity, we're finding it to be very impactful.
Yeah, it's really, really fantastic. I would imagine that that makes a big difference for people who are struggling with different issues, to see somebody who's been able to work through those issues, and also to kind of know, that this is somebody who wouldn't judge me for what I'm going through because they've been in my shoes. Really great. Sheriff Mendrick, you mentioned obviously so many great programs that the people who are in your jail have access to. How does the coronavirus affect your ability within the jail to kind of move people in and out of programs, and really get people to still have access to those things, even though I imagine there are some additional restrictions around how people move around the facility?
Yeah, that affected us greatly. I mean, we had to stop double bunking people. So that was a challenge. Then, clearing out that fourth floor obviously caused more constraints on us on tightness of people, because you want to keep everybody as far apart as you can. We considered all of our mental health and drug recovery programs essential services, also. We never stopped for a day. Those continue. In fact, when you look at out in the real world, most of those things can't be done face to face. Pandemic, we were the only institution still doing this, even though we're in a full pandemic. So we went through it, but we still we maintained safety protocols. And again, we kept everything clean, kept everybody at safe distancing. The air is clear. You can do these things if you do them right. It's not even rocket science, it's simple science. We use the most basic principles of what we knew, how this virus was traveling. And, again, we were able to, in a 500 person indoor environment with 200 people with the employees, that's the scary part. We know that our population is safe, but it's the 200 people who leave every day and come back that you have to worry about. We even have had them spraying ammonia solutions on their shoes before they came in. Again, it's kind of like the mental health realm. We'll keep on adding arrows to the quiver every time you learn something new about it, or how it moves, or any uncertainty. We just add another patch. And I did want to, one thing I did forget to mention, I started to mention this before, we're starting a new de-escalation technology, virtual reality. We actually put on this virtual reality headset. You pick schizophrenia, autism, hard of hearing. So I have an autistic child. I picked autism. You put on the VR helmet, everything's too bright, everything is too loud, you're self-stimming. You walk into a grocery store, you pick up a toy that you shouldn't, and you leave with it, and then you get arrested by the police. It was very disturbing experience for me in the virtual reality is very lifelike. So it was so disturbing that I actually got a window into what my son is dealing with. But then the scenario snaps like that. Now you're the police officer, that same person that you just felt, it's an ultimate empathy. You just felt what they felt. Now, when I did the scenario, it was 3 minutes. Hey, turn off the lights and sirens of the car. He came out of his store. I'm sure his parents are in there. And in 3 minutes, the dad came out and got the kid. but there's everything. You'll hear the whispering in your head from people with schizophrenia. It's really salient to actually experience these things that people are going through. So you better understand, my goodness, that person's really going through that. So it's a new training. It's called Axon VR mental health headset training. We're going to be implementing that over the next few months.
That's incredible. I mean, what a way to kind of better understand the people that you're encountering in your work, and to really build, I would imagine, a great deal of empathy in people who, wouldn't have been able to experience what that's like. And also, I love that you said that you consider the behavioral health services in the jail to be essential services. I think that speaks volumes about what you and your team are doing there. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Joe, I'm going to turn to you now. You've done the presentation that you gave to us in person dozens of times. What is something you've learned from a person in recovery or a family member that has surprised you?
It's strange for me personally. I was a policeman for 30 years. I spent 29 of those in narcotics enforcement. So I came from the enforcement side, and now traveling with a trailer and meeting with parents who have lost kids to addiction and talking with the kids in recovery. I could not be more impressed with it's almost like a community to me. And we're lucky enough, a lot of the places when we're with a physical trailer, they'll partner us with a treatment or a prevention center. And a lot of the counselors who are there have been through a misuse or maybe recovery and are now counselors themselves. But I've never met people more driven and compassionate to help others. And it's impressive. And you see that they rally around each other. And I've had a number of friends I've met around the country that we still keep in touch with, it still help us update the trailer. So very compassionate, very driven group to help others.
Thanks, Joe. I think driven and compassionate to help others is probably a pretty good description of you too. So you're in good company, I guess.
We're trying.
Thank you so much. Representative Mazzochi, I'm going to turn it over to you now. And we'd all love to hear from you before we sign off, if you have any closing remarks.
I do. I just want to say to all of our experts who have joined us today, thank you for all of the wonderful work that you are doing to try to help people who are suffering from addiction. One of the things that we've seen is that while addiction is a very and misuse of opioids is a very personal issue, it's also something that really does impact families. It impacts communities. And I think because of that, that's why we're really seeing a community response that's trying to get everybody at every single level to try to make sure that we're tackling things on all sides. So all of the work that you are doing is phenomenal and incredibly helpful. And I thank you so much for all of the service that you are providing to those who are in need, not only the people who may be suffering, but their families and caregivers as well. So with that, I did want to also very much say thank you to our host, RALI, the RX Abuse Leadership Initiative, because I know all of the work that you are doing, not only here in the state of Illinois, but nationwide, to try to make sure that we are bringing people and providers together so that we can share best practices, make people alert and aware, and hopefully try to bring these cases of addiction and misuse down. So thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. And for anyone else who would like a copy of the presentation today, obviously the information is available in the chat box. You can also reach out to our office at 630-852-8633, and we are here to help. So thank you again so much, everyone, for joining us today. And I hope that everyone who's listening and watching, that you also continue to stay safe and healthy.
Thank you, Representative Mazzochi. And I think we couldn't close it in a better way than that. So I want to thank all of our panelists. Thank you, Representative Mazzochi, for your work and for joining us. And thank you, everyone who's been with us, for listening. Everybody have a great night.
Thank you, everyone.